All right, 5:30. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started. Consideration A, approval of Eagle Block and CDL building demolition contract. Yeah.
With this approval, we actually did receive two separate quotes. I've shared all those with both the commission and as well as our engineering firm. The quote that was received initially, I think you have the number here, and I'm imagining it's okay to say it now since we have it. We have both. If I can find the number. The initial quote was 148.5, 148,500. The secondary quote was 237,500. Same work. Engineers have looked at both bids and quotes, and at this point, we would. Well, speaking of, at this point, we would likely approve or recommend approval of the initial bid received, if that is the council's decision. So I guess we have our engineer here, so we can ask questions if need be.
Yeah. And Earl or Pete, you went through everything on there. Everything looks good on the one with American wrecking.
Yeah, what I did is. What I did is if you're on the agreement, starting on the third page, section 801, we tried to cover everything in those items A through T. And in through all those, we tried to write all the items we talked about, including the insurance, including what the contractor is expected to do, what we talked about the city would do. We tried to cover everything in there that we talked about. And that's where the items are. His agreement is mostly how he was going to do it. And so I tried to write in there what's included and what isn't included. As far as items such as shoring and so on, which were not included in the bid. The backfill, his contract had stated he would backfill with crushed brick. We said no. I say that in the deal, in the agreement, that all material will be hauled off site and that it'll be backfilled with approved material.
Any commissioner have any questions over any of the bids received?
I'm not sure that I'm clear on the north building. You were saying it needed to be supported, and I think in the bid proposal it said it didn't need to be. The contractor said it didn't include shoring of that roof. Am I confused?
The north wall is what we're going to shore. Anytime we tear down the building, I have no idea what that condition of that wall is. So I say, basically, I said that we'll look at the party walls once the building's out of the way and decide what needs to be done to support those or repair them. And until and at that time, I can't tell you what that is, and that's not part of his bid.
Okay, well, in his proposal, item 3, it says place sheet metal with straw underlayment in the same manner on the roof of the bar building, which is the north building on the east portion where the third story rises above the roof level. Shoring shall not be needed here.
I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, that's what he said.
No, that's what he said, but he doesn't know either.
Oh, so we're not.
Nobody knows what is going to have to be shored.
You're saying
or
it's not,
shored,
yeah.
But I'm saying that shoring isn't part of his bid.
Well, we're shoring they are shoring up the
south
building.
The roof.
The roof is being shored up there.
Right. He's shoring up the roof as part of his demolition.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm talking about when I say shoring up the party walls,
Yeah.
I'm saying we may have to go in there and temporarily support those walls until and at which time we get the repairs done.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, but
But his shoring is talking about what I call in here and say that he will do whatever is necessary to protect both the south building and the north building. And that's part of what he thinks he'll need to do to protect
During
that
the
south
demolition.
building.
Uh-huh. But he doesn't feel he needs to shore the roof on the north building.
No,
And, but,
not
But that's-
not the bar.
yeah,
Right.
but that's not conclusive. I mean, it may need to be shored. Is that right? I mean,
Well, when we looked, okay, I wasn't looking. You and I were not on the same page, but yes, on Sharky's their wall and everything. When we looked at it, showed no signs of movement or anything else. Plus, their roof looked like they actually did repair the roof so that it doesn't leak. The south building, that's not true. When we looked up through the roof in the south building, there's areas that we could still see daylight. That's not a fixed roof, in my opinion. Therefore, we're concerned about that roof because there's also several existing trusses or joists that show what I call a watermark, white. That white is mold, which means there are several areas that are dry rotted. So our concern is be careful being on that roof. And so he wants to go ahead and support that. So, and he's going to put plywood on that roof and stuff so that if anything does fall, he protects the roof as much as possible. But that's part of his, what I say, he's required to protect the existing buildings as much as possible. And that's part of what he's saying is he thinks he has to do for protecting that roof. And that's his call. I'm not going to tell him how to do his job.
well, I'm just,
But there's two different shorings.
yeah,
What you're talking about is what I call protecting the existing buildings. The shoring I'm talking about is the party walls after the building's down. We need to support those walls
yeah, I
until and
know.
at which
Yeah.
time we get them repaired.
I'm totally with you.
Okay.
The only thing he's saying here is shoring shall not be needed on the north building. And that's in reference to shoring up the roof.
Right. He's referring to Sharky's bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And you're in agreement with that?
Aye.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Well, there were questions last night, and of course, I haven't had time to review the whole contract, where they said there was no responsibility taken for walling damage due to collapse or something. Is that corrected in the contract, or?
Due to what?
The falling and
The fall, well, actually, I mean, it said wall damage due to collapse. He said, I think he said it was taking that out, that they are covered for collapse or.
Yeah, that's what I brought up in the very beginning, was the walling wall. He had misspelled some on him, not responsible for falling walls.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure that he was going to be responsible, him, his insurance company, what have you, if he ends up domino affecting these buildings over into the new grill.
Yeah, that's why we require and we have a $2 million policy with a $3 million umbrella.
So it is in the contract someplace that's protected?
Well,
There's insurance coverage.
there's
That's how
insurance
it's
coverage. That's what
Okay.
insurance, liability
Okay.
insurance is for. And that's why the very back part, we included the supplemental conditions. And that supplemental conditions is the definition of all the insurance, basically, and what's required with that. So we added that to the contract, so there's no question what insurance we expect, and that they have to give us their insurance before they start and show that it will be in effect for at least 6 months. Contract.
I have two
I
other.
understand at one time you got insurance, it was basically canceled the day after you got a copy.
We would be approving them now, so it's already closed the bid
As long as
We
process.
don't need that. No.
That's good.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Okay, so I know there's been other community comments today. Anything, Jeremy, that you know about that or?
Thank you.
I knew you were going to say something any second. So I did have the opportunity to meet with a local citizen who was interested to provide a second perspective. He has access to engineering services as well. And so I essentially said that after we came to a decision here, if at all possible, we would allow his engineer to possibly look at the building and form an opinion as to the CDL building's structural integrity as well. I don't know that that's necessary, but that is an option that he wanted to pursue.
I
If
understand.
it was Frank called me, and his main thing was, he said, is your concern getting Sharky's open? I said, yeah, that's the main thing. He said, well, that's my main thing, and bring a second engineer in to see if we can get open quicker. And his question was with you, once it's secure and down, Sharky's can become open. Now, you might suggest it be closed while some of the demoing is going on. Is that, or?
While they demo, yes.
Yeah.
Once the building's down and they're basically removing rubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
reason.
Which
we'll
could
have
be
to put
fairly
barricades,
quick,
but
yeah.
Still
Yeah.
protect the area that we're moving material out of.
Is that, I mean, and that all sounds fine, but I'm just saying, what if, I mean, that building hasn't stood on its own for 100 years. Is it just, I mean, I'm not being facetious when I ask this question. I mean, is Sharky's gonna be stable once those other buildings are away from it and there's guys over there swinging and moving machines?
Well, once the material is all off of there, so then when they're moving things, they're not, we're not knocking things down anymore.
Right.
It's mostly removing rubble. Is the walls themselves, and part of that's going to be looking at that wall once things are really
Right.
out of the way. We assume it's stable. You're right, obviously, laterally it's being supported, but it's still supported inside itself laterally. It's not like it's a hollow building that's going to move. It's laterally supported as well by its own floors that are
Right.
in there.
I just want to make sure that, and the reason I say that's because I want to make sure, not only that it's standing on its own, but if the machines, I want to make sure the rebel's pulled away from that
Correct.
building.
We
Because
don't
if he
want
have-
rubble that a dozer is running into the
That's
wall
what
and
I'm
pick
saying.
stuff up. No.
Somebody swings
We
the wrong
wanna be-
direction.
You're right. When we say it's cleared out, it means it's away from that wall. And we're not driving into it or around it or running into it or scooping up next
Right.
to it. Correct.
Yeah, I want to sit on the north side of the building, Dave, once it's open for have a chance to run.
So I've got a couple more questions, I guess, just so I understand. One is, as they start this process, will the Eagle building be the first attack? Will they take the whole thing out at one time, and they'll do the Eagle, and then they'll go in and do the CDL building?
Correct.
The
The
so-
intention is to do the
So-
Eagle building first.
Okay, so if there was still some
Chance to save it.
decision-making process about the CDL building, because I think the whole point of this is to get Dave back into business
It
as quickly as
absolutely is.
possible, and he's sitting back there, so that's my other question is, you gonna jump up and down, yell or scream or any
Well,
questions?
and
I've asked it.
you keep saying, can we save this? Can we save that? I'm not an expert on building renovation. And we can second guess ourselves all day long.
I agree, Pete. I am really, trust me, I trust you, and I'm not trying to.
No, and
The
I'm not
second guess that.
offended by
I
somebody
think
else
what-
looking at it. I'm not.
I think what
There's
Dr.
no
Nichols is trying to say though is once the demolition starts, if he's going to start over on the south side and work his way around, and once we pull in the Eagle Block building, and then if we stand back and look at it and say, you know what, this CDL building could be saved, we could. Is there a possibility that you could?
Sure.
We would rescind our.
I mean, I think we're going to be watching the whole situation all along.
Right. So we got people up there. We say, okay, now this building ain't as bad as we thought. Let's pull off and not crush this one.
Yeah.
there's
And
a plan.
the other thing to say is the very last thing I want to do is slow down the process. I do not want to stop. I want to keep going, so that we can get these guys
I agree.
back to business. And Dave, I'm sorry. Can I ask if Dave has a comment? Are you okay with all this? Yeah. Okay. All right. We agree. Yeah.
Again.
So you didn't ask the final question, which is, okay, where are these guys going to start?
So
I think they're just waiting on us now.
We'll sign it.
They are.
I've
They're
spoken
they're
to-
willing to get going. Obviously, we haven't received anything. Of course, they haven't signed any contract yet.
I guess
He has reviewed the contract and he's okay with it, with the markups and write-ups that I did. I don't know if the attorneys had a chance to kind of go through it. He's
I
okay.
came in early to have a look at this.
Okay.
And I recognize the architectural engineering standards that are in here, and they cover everything. Good job.
So I guess one final question I have about that, I'm just thinking of new things now. If we do end up saving, let's say the CDL building's good, and we save it, how does that affect this bid? Because he's given us a bid for X, and now he's not, we say, okay, hold on, we're not gonna tear
Well,
it
and that
down.
becomes a negotiation at that point,
Okay.
obviously. But we're gonna sit down with him and negotiate that, and you're gonna have to then also realize that if you're gonna save that building, it's not free. You guys are gonna have to, somebody's gonna have to put some bucks in it in short order.
Roof and all
If it
kinds of
is
stuff.
truly salvageable,
And
you're gonna,
Which
you're
may,
looking at some dollars to make.
And I
this.
would also put in there that the Freemans are also trying to get renovations started and done. Yes, they're not an actual thriving business at the moment that's open and needing people to come in and out, but they are in just as much of a hurry. This week was their week to have contractors in there doing the work to set up their space. They
I understand, but I wasn't
right.
even talking about that.
I
I was talking about something totally different. I was talking about negotiations. If we end up saving the CDL building, what will that happen with the $140,000 bid? Because we say, okay, now we're not going to have this tore down. We're going to stop you, and we're going to leave the CDL building. How does that affect the bid? That's what I was discussing. He said we'd go into negotiations. With that.
Well,
Gotcha.
That's right. It'll be a change order.
Right.
And we'll have to sit down and negotiate that.
And that's the reason why Peter's in charge.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows the procedure, he knows what to do and how to do it, and we need.
Who's the
we
guy
need
with the mask, Peter?
Leave it in Peter's
Who's this
hands. And again, we're all asking questions, what if? We won't know what if until they get those walls torn down.
And then part of that is my question to you is what do you want my role to be during the demolition?
the expert.
Well, I mean, the
On-site.
option is on-site inspection.
At least partial.
huh?
You have to be here every minute of every day.
Well, no,
but,
of course not.
That's my question to you is what do you want?
Well, I think, what I'm running through my head now is you working with the, via the phone with the contractor saying, hey, where you at? When you get close to that CDL building, give us a holler. We'd like to be on site then.
Right.
If you have any questions or concerns, please call us when you get ready to knock the facade in. We'd like to be there when it's coming down to make sure, whatever. I'm sure we'll have the fire department, everybody on hand, just, to make sure it goes good.
If I can make a suggestion, we've told him he's in charge of the project.
Yes.
That's what the contract's gonna say.
Yes.
Let him decide when, where, how much, phone, person. That's his job.
Yes.
We aren't gonna be there on the ground. It's his job. And we don't want to interfere with his expertise because that makes us liable.
I agree. I mean, basically what you're gonna bring back to us is information. And so I would assume, and you're gonna.
Using
we
your
all-
judgment. I mean, is that something that you're okay with? And
I am.
answer-wise? Okay.
I am. I just don't want you to scream and yell when you get a bill.
Right.
Well, we're gonna do that.
But the other thing you need to realize is, as this contract states, once we do get the building down, now we still got another fee going into repairing those walls.
Yeah.
And temporary supporting those. So keep that in mind. And also, this contract does include backfilling the basement, but that will not be done for a while because obviously we have to get it sealed and so on, at least above the basement line ways.
So you hold retainage back on that?
Yes, well, and the contract shows that we're holding 10% retainage anyway. But on top of that, he's only getting paid for what he actually does. And so then we'll decide what the value of that filling in the basement is. So we have enough money in there. If he says, I'm not gonna come back, we've got enough money to hire somebody else to do it.
Well, are you saying that we're not gonna do any backfilling at all? Or do you think that they can backfill it all except 10 feet on each end or something like that?
Well,
I mean, he's got his equipment here and.
it'll just depend on what we find and how much room we need to put in supports and everything else. So until we get that, we won't know the space we need, and it may be such a small area that, no, it's not worth backfilling that area. And plus I'm not, depending on how that basement is, we may end up wanting to punch some holes in that floor for the drainage reasons.
Well, I think there's rock right underneath it.
Probably so.
I think it's not solid.
Probably so.
And,
That's probably a safe bet.
Yeah.
In the bottom of that basement.
All right. Any other
We can
questions?
core it. We can get it. We got a core machine, so we can bring a core machine down and punch a few holes in that basement and find out when we get there.
Any
So
other
you-
questions?
Do you need two separate motions or one motion to accept the contract and approve the bid?
I think it's only one.
It'll just be one
Because
motion.
the bid's in the contract.
I'd move accept the contract as written.
Second.
Randy Nichols,
Yes.
Lindsay Watts,
Yes.
Kevin Allen,
Abstain?
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes. All right. Motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Kevin Allen,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Lindsay Watts,
Yes.
Randy Nichols.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes.